Bang.
We are live.
CJ and Matt, what do you say, man? It was a wonderful and terrible February at the same time, and now we're in a new month, March, for the Daily Crypto Byte, our first Daily Crypto Byte of March. Are we going to take a big bite or a little? So far, it's a big bite, right? I mean, the market's making a comeback.
Yeah, really nice bounce back today, and it was encouraging to see that people were willing to buy that dip. You know, it was kind of scary, but they bought it right up, so good to see.
Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy being one of them, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
All right, John, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that before we came on air, folks, we were talking about Max Kaiser, friend of the show, and Max and Stacy, love your work, guys. And Max was pontificating about whether or not we might see significant damage, I'll say, because I don't want to scare people, in the bond market. And that if we did, he thought that would be a significant driver into Bitcoin, and that he thought that that could carry Bitcoin to 200,000 by year end. 77,000 is his short-term target, guys, and 200. And I'm only sort of chuckling because Max loves to beat me up, because he told me when I first met him about crypto, probably 2016, and he said, you should have bought it. And I said, of course I should have. I'm an idiot for not buying a whole bunch of it. But every time he sees me, or even on Twitter, he'll list me in the group of people that said, I told Jon Najarian to buy this, I told this guy, I told that, and, you know, he lists all your Twitter handles, and I'm like, hey, Max, you know, one of these days I'm going to call you out, buddy. You better watch it. But yeah, he was right then. He might be right now. But what we were talking about before we came on air, folks, was that if you see that sort of damage in the market, at least in the short term, Max isn't going to be right. People will liquidate. They did last March when the equity markets flipped upside down, and, you know, we were seeing 2,000 point drops in the Dow and 6 and 8% drops in the S&P in a single day. When we saw that, we didn't see Bitcoin rally. Many of us thought that you might see that, but in the short term, you won't. But that ended up being a great buying opportunity, guys, just like the market.
And to your point, John, that was a very similar story with gold in 2008. It wasn't until afterwards, 2009, 2011, where we went into that drastic bull market. So in a liquidity crisis, yes, everything has sold off very hard.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we all need to sort of remember is what kind of time frame you have for your investment. Like I've joked with you guys, I love when people say they're a Bitcoin maximalist and then they go describe a whole bunch of altcoins that they own. For the most part, I do trade the altcoins, and I try not to trade Bitcoin. I try to buy it on dips, and I did again this weekend. Not huge, but again. And, you know, I think, guys, on Bitstamp, it traded 43.8 over the weekend, Bitcoin to the US dollar, 43,800, maybe it was 43,900, something like that. And no, I didn't buy it there. I bought it just shy of 46,000. But that was a pretty significant, you know, on no news, I couldn't believe that they were hammering it like that. But, you know, that's what happens when you have, to your point, I think, CJ, you were saying, you know, last Thursday, when everything was breaking down in the market, Bitcoin was breaking right down with it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to the news piece that CJ is sharing with us today. So you want to talk about that, CJ?
Yeah, we have a couple different news pieces. The first one is just the stock market. So the Dow has jumped 450 points to start the week as rate fears have eased. And so I think this is a lot to do with the Bitcoin market as well. Like John said, we had a lot of downward price action last week as the high risk assets and the tech stocks sold off hard. And we saw Bitcoin do exactly that. But on a little piece of bullish news, we have Micro Saylor of MicroStrategy keep stacking sats with an additional $15 million worth of Bitcoin. Guys, I think he's maxed out his corporate credit card because he could have bought a building if he could have.
It's amazing, isn't it, CJ? I mean, you know, credit where credit's due, just like we did with Max. We're giving Michael Saylor a lot of credit, and he deserves it because, you know, a lot of people look at their treasuries, including, you know, the Warren Buffett types. Now, you know, he's not going to buy Bitcoin, but when you've got all these billions of dollars in, you know, instruments that pay you nothing, don't you have to sort of think about, well, if I could make a little money on this, that would be a better use of these funds than just letting them sit there in cash. And that's why, of course, a lot of these firms have been pushed by the Fed and others when interest rates are this cheap. Yeah, those firms want to borrow, but they also want to do M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And to your point, man, the interest that Michael Saylor has created, that Elon Musk has created by just mentioning their Bitcoin purchases, or, you know, even just putting it in their handle on Twitter, is huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that kind of speaks to the interest that retail traders have been showing, because I mean, a lot of that influence that Elon Musk has and Michael Saylor has is over retail traders. And I think one thing we kind of saw this weekend, I'm just going to quickly kind of go into the technicals here a little bit. One thing that CJ and I had been talking a lot about was how during this sell-off, the indicators that were acting as support kind of flipped to resistance here. So if you look at this middle yellow Bollinger Band, it's like John said, right? A lot of people don't like trading Bitcoin, and it's almost considered like blasphemous because hodling is like a religion at this point. But the way I see it is there's great opportunities here, and you can use these technicals to really increase your stack. And that's what I was looking for this weekend. One thing that I talked about on Friday's show was this bottom blue Bollinger Band and kind of how it was acting as support in confluence with this setup support from the 9. So if we look a little closer here, you can see we bounced perfectly off that. And we did get a little bit of resistance here at this middle Bollinger Band, but the bulls kept rallying and pushed right through. So I'm watching these Bollinger Bands very closely as an indication to where to take profit, where to increase my stack, or where to just not trade. And I think that's really important with this market because it's really kind of a strong battle between the bulls and the bears at this point. There's no clear-cut winner. I feel like price could go all the way back up to 58K in the matter of a day, but at the same time, we could retest 45K in that same day. So this market's set up for some extreme volatility. A lot of it has to do with the fundamentals that we were just talking about, a lot of the news-driven events, but the technicals here are still very valid. So I'm watching them closely.
Matt, would you mind? I'm not positive that you can pull this one up on the chart there, but if not, we've got Dennis_P wants to know if we have any thoughts on StormX, which is STMX. You know, it's trading here at 0.009597. That's, you know, this is one of those super cheap coins. We see a lot of these. You know, we talked about Doge. I bought Doge not too far from that level. And, you know, it had just a historic run when Musk and some of these other guys started, you know, holding up the dog for Doge. What do you think? Do you see anything here, CJ or Matt, for STMX for Dennis?
Well, we did just interview the CEO of StormX, Simon Yu, on our neighbor channel, Trade the Chain. That interview is going to be coming out today or tomorrow. But we did get a nice bump up to the 1 cent level, still facing a little bit of resistance, waiting to hit and get past that breakout level of about 1 cent or 1.1. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see when that interview comes out, because Simon, they have some stuff that's pretty cool in the works, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what they have. But they're very comparable to a company like Honey. They give cash back, but with crypto when you shop and go to various online retailers.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly tie that in with the fact that today Voyager's report came out, their user report, and apparently there's only 5,000 funded accounts, but there are there were 150,000 new users so far in 2021. So for me, that's an indication that the floodgates are still not yet breached and there's going to be a massive influx of new users. And one thing I look for when I'm kind of guessing where the retail money is going to go is low cap altcoins with high opportunity. StormX has that. Also clear cut utility. And like CJ said, they do have some pretty solid utility that I think will appeal to the retail trader. And then 3, good PR. And I think they're doing the right things. They're putting themselves out there, got themselves listed on the Voyager exchange. Now Simon is going out and doing these interviews. So I do think that just because of the flood of retail interest that's going to flow into the space, as we've seen with the new influx of Voyager accounts, I think a lot of those users are going to really kind of flock to StormX because of its price point and because of its clear-cut utility.
Yeah, well, and to your point, we would be remiss if we didn't mention our sponsor, Voyager. Voyager's a digital asset platform, folks. They are a crypto broker that has over 50 digital assets available. I'm sure it'll be over 60 in the not too distant future. You can earn interest on your deposited crypto that you leave there. Some of it's as high as 9%, I think. If you own the VGX coin, you also get a little bump just from that. If you leave crypto on there and you own the VGX coin, I think they pay you a higher amount. And wow, I'm looking at that release right now too, Matt, and it says their AUM over at Voyager in February, over $1.7 billion. They're a Canadian regulated entity, a broker. They also trade in the US.
In October, that number was 100 million.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So imagine that 17 times the amount, from 100 million to 1.7 billion dollars, and revenue for February 20 million. So we're not only sponsored by these guys, but we believe in them. I trade on their platform. I trade a lot of altcoins on their platform and hodl a lot of Bitcoin on their platform. But anyway, thanks again to Voyager for sponsoring the Daily Crypto Byte. So, guys, are you pretty bullish on this bounce, both in the stock market? Because CJ, you seem to tie it stock market and Bitcoin right now. So you sound like you'd be pretty bullish on both. Matt said 450-point bounce out of the gates for the stock market. And, we're from 44,000 to through 48, not 249, but through 48, pretty strong for Bitcoin.
Yeah, we dipped below that 45K level for just a little bit, but now we're back above it and rallying up. So we'll have to see. That level's been strong. It's still holding. But last thing I will get into is VGX. But first, I want to let Monty give his opinion of Voyager.
Oh no, yeah, I think you said it well before the stream started, CJ. I mean, Bitcoin is still at a point where it's moving in tandem with the S&P and traditional financial markets. So I know a lot of people like to think of Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, but it's not there yet. It's still a speculative asset on its potential value as a safe haven asset. So I think if the S&P continues to rally, we can see Bitcoin go back up to break above 50K to 56K. So I think this week, if the S&P continues to rally, Bitcoin's going to have a great week. It just has to do with liquidity across the board. And a lot of the people that are speculating on Bitcoin right now are also speculating on traditional markets, like people that are invested in MicroStrategy, Riot, Mara. So there's a lot of overlap right now. And I think as a result, they're moving in tandem. So yeah, I think this week they're going to move very closely together. But yeah, I'll pass it back to you, CJ.
Yeah, so last thing we're covering here is just VGX, the Voyager token, is the top performing asset today on Voyager, up 30% approximately. Hit a high of roughly $7. There's been a lot of sell pressure at the $7 resistance level. Seems like there's been a lot of individuals who have got in early on this token who've been taking a lot of profit at that level. And, I think once we get past that level, we will have a breakout into newer highs, but we still are in this kind of just neutral consolidation channel. But I'm looking at that 720 level, that recent high, as a breakout level that we might test. We've got some news coming from Voyager later at around 5:30 Eastern time today. Steve Ehrlich, the CEO of Voyager, will be reporting a earnings call and a guidance call for the next quarter. So we'll be looking forward to that and looking if that affects the stock price or the actual token VGX.
Cool. Well, it's a lot of great news for them. Obviously, Bitcoin, the big monster, is going to lift and drop both crypto brokerages like Coinbase and Voyager and Gemini, as well as the altcoins that are all, they're not necessarily tied to it, but we all know that if people are raising funds and selling over in Bitcoin land, they're probably hitting Ethereum, they're probably hitting Litecoin, they're probably hitting Uni. You know, the only things that might not be feeling the pain as much are the stable coins. But that's just part of the fun of trading crypto assets. So great insights as always, guys. Thank you both, CJ and Matt. And remember, you can follow these guys and check out the crypto trading room. Costs you $1. That's right, $1 a month to be in the room. Tens of thousands of folks are doing that. There's lots of charts and lots of commentary throughout the day. I'd encourage you folks to check it out. marketrebellion.com/try-crypto is where you go. So thank you, guys. Looking forward to tomorrow's Daily Byte.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.